Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and game of the day analysis of the Tata Steel Masters 2021 round 2. We are going to study the game which was played between Alexander Donchenko and Fabiano Caruana in this round. So without any further delays, let us straight away jump to the game. Donchenko started with the queen's pawn d4, to which Fabi had prepared the Slav opening. He wanted to play the bishop f5, typical Slav, not going into the semi-Slav grounds. So d5, c4, c6, knight f3, knight f6, e3, and if here black plays e6, then this enters the semi-Slav arena, and if black plays bishop f5, which Fabi did in the game, this goes into the Slav defense, the modern and quiet Slav defense. After bishop f5, white went knight c3, normal developing move, e6, knight h4. This is a very typical idea in the Slav defense to try and put some pressure on this bishop which has come out of this pawn chain, and it does not have a good place to go. There is no h6 placement. I mean, the h7 square is not vacated for this bishop yet. So white's knight asks a question to this bishop, but black has both the ways to play here. Bishop g6 is also normal in this opening, but the typical idea here is to go bishop e4 first. If white goes f3 here, this becomes an added weakness, slight erosion in his pawn structure. And if white decides to take knight into f3, then d into e4, and this knight has got a few issues to solve. Like he has to play g3 to come into the game, but it compromises his structure a bit, and black does not miss his light squared bishop because most of his pawns are doing a great job of controlling the light squares in the center. So white went for f3 in the game, bishop came back to g6, bishop d2, black simply develops bishop e7, knight into g6, h into g6. White looks like slightly better in this position with a bishop pair, good central mass. Definitely white has slight edge in the opening. White played queen c2, typical developing idea, knight bd7, long castles. Black, after long castles, played a6, trying to go b5 at the right moment to create some pressure on this king on the queen side, which has just now castled on the longer side. Now white here played a novelty. Until this point, the game followed a predecessor game which was played between Adli Ahmed and Ibrahimov in the year 2017. In that game, white had played the move bishop e1, after which black responded with b5, c5, queen c8, g4. Then this bishop was bad, so he went on to improve this bishop from here. But white had a really good position in this game, and white went on to win the game actually. In this game, white played g4, a novelty. So after g4, black went for d into c4. Obviously, like in the other game that we saw, b5 and allowing white to block this pawn chain is not a good idea. After c5, white locks the queen side, and black won't be able to create any counterplay, generate anything on this king on the queen side. So Fabi went for d into c4 straight away, trying to open a few lines. Bishop into c4, b5. The bishop goes back to e2. Now comes another pawn break. Now here, black needed to be a bit careful because the queen is sitting in front of this rook on the same line. But for now, this bishop is kind of trapped, cannot go to any active spot to discover an attack on the queen. So black firmly plays c5 immediately. White does not want to allow that opening of the c file, and white goes for a d5. Interesting idea. He wants to create something in the center, even at a cost of the pawn. So knight into d5, knight into d5, e into d5. White went f4. Now the point here is white has a bishop pair. The center is kind of open. The king cannot get easily castled. Even on the king side, it's very easy for white to create counterplay. These bishops could become very strong. Black's idea is to keep the king in the center and not castle actually, and try to create counterplay on the queen side. Black went for b4 here. What black wants to do is, first of all, control the c3 square. The bishop cannot be activated on this long diagonal, and at the same time he wants to expand on the queen side and probably take these right timed breaks and open up on the queen side. So after b4, white went for e4, trying to create something in the center. Obviously, this king is in the center. White's counterplay has to be in the center. He needs to open more lines there. Black goes for d4, keeping the e file closed. e5, knight b6. Here, actually, black had a very interesting move instead of knight b6. Knight b6 is also good enough. Definitely some initiative for black, and black is the one who's actually playing for some advantage in this game. White has already lost his advantage from which he had gained from the opening. I would want you to pause here and actually have a think about this position and come up with that interesting resource which Fabi missed as black. Yeah, I hope you found c4, guys. This move is a brilliant idea to create something on the queen side right away. The pawn can be taken, obviously not with the queen because of this. White can take with bishop, but now knight b6, and what black has managed to do is open the c file and create something on the c file. Now rook c8 is coming next. How is he going to get rid of all three pieces in the same line? For example, let's say if he goes king b1, there is rook b1 attacking this bishop. The only way to prevent this extra piece from falling was b3. And now we can also play knight into h3, but there is another incoming move which is absolutely brilliant and very thematic. I would want you to pause here once again and find that brilliant idea which black could have played if this position had occurred on the board. Rook h3. So when you have initiative, guys, we should always look for opportunities where we can introduce our newer pieces into the attack which are not participating currently. This rook on h8 was on an open file but was not really participating on this queen side attack. But as soon as black spots an opportunity, he jumps to the h3 square, straight away cutting the board into two pieces from the third rank and being ready to jump on some of these third rank squares in the right moment. Anyway, so he did not play c4 here. What Fabi did was he played knight b6, which is also a good idea, gives some initiative. Now he's preparing c4. Okay, e6 was played, queen d5. Now in these kind of positions where we both are attacking on each other's kings, it's very important to keep our king as safe as possible. You can also use your opponent's pawns to keep the lines closed in front of your king. This game is a perfect example of that. After queen d5, white went for e into f7 check. Now obviously this pawn can be taken two ways. Queen takes as well as the king can take the pawn. But Fabi plays a brilliant idea, king f8. King into f7 was also playable, definitely better for black. But king f8 is absolutely thematic and brilliant. I love this move. With king f8, black makes sure that there is no check or there is no hindrance on the queen side attack. This king is not in a troublesome position here. After king f8, white still tries to create something. Obviously, that's his job. He plays h4, tries to open more lines against this king on f8. But white seems to be a bit too slow as compared to black's attack on the queen side. After h4, queen into a2 was played. Here, white went for queen into g6, but he could have also played queen b1. Queen into g6 turned out to be a big mistake of the game. And from that point, it was very difficult for white to recover. But queen b1, still black has definite advantage. Queen into b1, king into b1. And if you look at this structure, black can play c4. These pawns are just controlling and dominating these pieces. You can take king into f7 whenever black wants. And on the queen side, it's like 3 extra pawns against this lonely pawn and this lonely king. So black definitely has a good chance to win the game. But in the game, white played queen into g6. After which, I would want you to pause once again, guys, to find this instructive idea. What would you do after queen into g6? b3, guys. What's the point behind this move? Black is advancing on the queen side, and this move loses more time in grabbing a pawn, which is actually not giving any counterplay for white whatsoever. Now black's idea is to just play c4, c3, break open this king and kill white's king on the queen side. After b3, white went for bishop e1, trying to open the second rank a bit, but it's still too late for all these things. c4, trying to open up on the queen side. Rook into d4, another sacrifice. But the point here is these pawns do not matter because white is not getting any counterplay. These f4 and f7 pawns are a curse for white. White wants to just make them disappear from the board and wants to attack on the f5. But it's not going to happen. Black is not going to pick any of these pawns to keep his king safe. So black here played knight a4, attacking b2. Queen had to step back to b1 to defend this. Okay, he could have played rook d2 as well, but then there is c3. This bishop's diagonal got blocked because of the move. And after c3 is clearly better for black. So here white went queen b1. Can you find black's next finishing blow, guys? What can black do after queen b1? How can black finish the game off very quickly here? A brilliant move, tactical idea, another sacrificing move, bishop a3. So the bishop cannot come for the rescue. And if it decides to take this, then there is another interesting idea here, b2 check. Introduction of another piece into the attack. King has to move to c2 to keep defending the queen, and then the queen comes to b3. King has to go here, queen c3. King has to go here. You can simply grab this rook. You've gotten a rook against the piece which you had sacrificed, and the position is dead lost for white. So b into a3 is not possible. So black, so white after bishop a3 played queen into a2, b into a2, king c2. He had this final interesting idea, so that if black queens, then there is bishop b4 check, bishop into b4, rook into a1. Even now I feel black is clearly winning because of that extra piece, but black has to be a bit careful in this variation because he has minimal pawns on the board, and if all these pawns are gone and exchanged, then it could become a draw as well. But still black has good chances to win. But in the game, very precise technique are displayed by this next move, rook b8. The point is he can't take, because if he does, there is rook b2 check, and the king is not able to come upwards. King has to go down, and this could be a checkmate with a rook or a queen. So b into a3 is not possible, and white had to play something. For example, white if goes for bishop b4 check here, there is rook into b4. Even now it's not possible b into a3 because of the same idea. If he goes rook here, still this check, it's a double check, and it's clearly winning for black. So after rook b8, white went for some desperate attempt with rook d8 check. This is nothing but just a desperate move before the resignation. Rook into d8, simply b into a3. Now black is up an exchange without any counterplay for white whatsoever. Another very precise move played by Fabi, c3, controlling these important and crucial squares. If this bishop moves, the rook is coming to d2 and black is clearly winning. So white, if decides to take, then there is simply rook c8, after which he also loses that piece and he will have to resign the game. Black will be simply up a rook. So here after c3, white went for bishop g3. Black here went rook d2 check, double attacking the king and the bishop. King b3, knight c5 check. And yes, white can try chasing this knight, but the point is knight e4, and now both these bishops are hanging on two different colors. They cannot support each other. Two bishops will always be on two different colors. Round 3 is going to be extremely interesting. Let's see which game is the most interesting one and the instructive one, and gets picked for our game of the day analysis from the Tata Steel Masters 2021. If you have found this video instructive, guys, do hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. Do not forget to click the bell icon and get notified with our latest video updates without missing any one of them. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. See you soon.